Hello and welcome back to FinalWhistle.ie for episode 2 of the Rugby Show. We've got a huge episode lined up for you this evening. I'll be joined by Leinster and Railway Union player Aimee Clarke to discuss her season so far, and Sligo head coach Paddy Pearson. I'll also be joined by Ciaron Noble to review and preview all of the action in the AIL. So joining me now will be Ciaron Noble. Ciaron, welcome back to the show, and what a first weekend of action that we had.
Yeah, it was really good, Luke, to be fair. Hopefully no one was reading my previews beforehand, because I stuck a few predictions in there, and I don't think many of them went to plan, but that just kind of sums up the AIL in general. Like, you can't really predict what's going to happen. So, yeah, it was a really good weekend. Some really good performances across the weekend. I think the one we have to start with is probably Ballynahinch beating Lansdowne. I think that shocked everyone pretty much. I know Lansdowne had their 150th dinner on Saturday night, so I think that was spoiled a little bit, but after a few points they were probably all right. But yeah, not the way they would have wanted to start the season, and huge credit has to go to Ballynahinch, because not many people gave them a chance, including myself, going into that game.
Absolutely, and especially with the season that they had last year, being in that relegation battle with UCC, and they're really making themselves out to be one of the early season favourites, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I suppose it was a good start for them. Like, you don't really know if that was just, a one-game thing. Like, I heard some people writing Lansdowne off afterwards. You can't really write them off like you're only a game in. And same with Ballynahinch. You still don't really know what you're going to get from them this year. Hopefully it's more competitive from them, and hopefully for them they can keep up this good form. But for Lansdowne, I suppose, it doesn't get any easier for them, because they have Clontarf this week away. So, yeah, the only positive for them really was Donald Lawler played number 8, and he's a fantastic player. He got on the score sheet. I heard only yesterday that maybe, I'm not sure yet, I have to get it confirmed, but Sam Prendergast, he might not be playing for Lansdowne this year, possibly not. And if he's not, that's a big loss in my opinion. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, massive credit to Ballynahinch. They were excellent at the weekend from what I saw, and a great way for them to start the season.
And another team who really pushed last year's champions all the way was UCD, and they led for parts of the game against Clontarf. And in fairness, Clontarf did come back and win 24-19. And they're playing Lansdowne this weekend. Clontarf, were you impressed with them to come back against? It really was a strong UCD performance.
Yeah, I actually got to go to that game, so I seen it all. And yeah, UCD were excellent. Like, probably I seen them a couple of times last year, and that was probably the best performance I've seen from them. So there was a lot of positives for them. And Tim Corkery played really well at out half. David Ryan was great in the centre. Fionn Gibbons, Chris Cosgrave, who I've always been a big fan of, played really well on the wing. Like, the thing for UCD is they always have a really good team, really good youthful team, but it's all about the depth for them, like, because some of those lads get called away to sevens, or they get called into the Leinster squad or Ireland under-20s. So for them, it's really important to build a squad full of depth, and to be able to keep those lads week in, week out is really important for them. But there was a lot of positives in that game for UCD, even though they lost. For Clontarf, to be fair, Clontarf's 1-8 like is fantastic. Like, their forwards are unreal. Dylan Donnellan scored 2 tries. We all know he got 19 last season, so who knows, maybe he can beat it this year. But yeah, like, Clontarf 1-8 is amazing. And then you have like guys like Brian Deeney, who play for Leinster, Soroka. Like, you've got all those guys that can come in from time to time as well. Like, they've got a fantastic team. Ben Murphy's just moved there, so he'll be back once the Emerging Ireland tour is over. JJ O'Dee's joined from Old Wesley. He got Player of the Year last year in 1B. So, yeah, they're fantastic. And then you've got Matt Darcy in the centre, their captain, who gives it 100% every game, and he was excellent again at the weekend. He really surged them on in that second half, and he was very good for them. So Clontarf have it everywhere on the pitch, but another team like that is Terranure. I think Terranure and Clontarf will be going right at it again this year.
Absolutely, and just taking a look at the table after match day 1, sitting top are Dublin University and Ciaron. After their performances last year, followed it up with a 50-14 win over Garryowen. They seem to be a side that just continue to keep getting better.
Yeah, for sure. I think last year I went to Trinity Lansdowne, and Aaron Egan started out half ahead of Mick O'Kennedy, and I think ever since that he's really made the jersey his own, because I know Mick's gone to Old Belvedere now, but Aaron Egan scored a hat-trick at the weekend. Fantastic player. Colm Hogan as well got 2 tries. He was with Old Belvedere last year. Really good player at fullback. Trinity, to be fair, are a bit similar to UCD. It's about, keeping players and making sure that too many lads don't go away. They've got Paddy McCarthy now, I read during the week as well, and he was excellent for Blackrock College last year in the Skills Cup. So, yeah, Trinity, I reckon they probably will make top 4 this year. They were very unlucky not to last year. But also, from what I've heard, Gary Owen aren't that strong this year. So, maybe don't read too much into it. But Trinity UCD this week is going to be based on their performances last week, is going to be really competitive, and it's going to be a really, really good game. And as far as I know, Trinity are doing a stream for the game. So, if you're at a loose end on Saturday, anyone go and watch it, because I think it could be a real cracker.
Absolutely, it has all the potential for the first colours game of the season to be a real classic. And moving on then to Division 1B, we had some big results in Division 1B, notably with the Old Wesley Naas game. We all know what happened in that top 4 last season, but Wesley came out 37-7 winners.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that, to be fair, because as I said a few minutes ago, JJOG and Ben Murphy, who were 2 really important players for Old Wesley last year, have gone to Clontarf. So it was kind of, people were wondering, would they be the same team? Would they have a bit of a hangover from last season? But it didn't look like it. Like, I don't know if you've seen David Poff's try at the start of the game, but it was already a try of the season contender. It was a brilliant score. And I think Old Wesley were excellent, and they really shut a few doubters up at the weekend because they just destroyed Naas. So I think Old Wesley will be near the top again this season in 1B, but I said this last week, but I think 1B is way more unpredictable than 1A even, so anything can happen. And another good game at the weekend was Old Belvedere versus St. Mary's. Some really, I think it was Jaden Pickett. I think he's a New Zealander or an Aussie. I can't think now, but he started on his debut and he got a couple of tries, I think, or at least 1 try. So that was good for him. Mick O'Kennedy, as I said, he was with Trinity last year, is playing out half for them this year. So Old Belvedere would have been really happy with that result. But also St. Mary's came back into it and they almost pulled it back. I think they were 21 points down or at one stage or something like that. And they managed to pull it back. So, yeah, St. Mary's, obviously, Sean Cronin is their new head coach. So he's obviously got a wealth of experience, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do with them.
And another huge game this weekend will be City of Armagh against UCC. Both sides enjoyed opening day wins. City of Armagh, they do look like they've shown signs of improvement, obviously beating newly promoted Buccaneers. And you would have expected UCC to be one of them sides at the top, especially after their relegation from 1A. Do you think that could be perhaps the clash of the weekend?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was watching the RFU videos at the start of the season, and the UCC captain or the player that represented them on the day was like, oh, we just want to go straight back up. So that's obviously the way they're thinking. They don't want to stick around in 1B. And they'll probably be one of the better teams in 1B this year. And then City of Armagh, they're a strange one because they're a bit of a dark horse. I think, they don't have the maybe deep history like the Marys or the Old Belvedere as well documented. But I think they could be a real dark horse, and they could... Like, they came 6th last year and they weren't far off the playoffs really in the end. So who knows what they can do. And they beat a very good Buccaneers team last week who would have been really highly charged, Eddie O'Sullivan's first game. So, yeah, it was really impressive for them. And, yeah, that could be a really good game, I think. Highfield Naas is on this weekend as well, I think. That should be an interesting game because for Johnny Murphy, he'll want to get a win under their belt and forget about that Wesley performance. And Highfield... last year, a bit like Wesley, were way ahead of the rest. So they'll be wanting to get another victory under their belt.
Yeah, and just taking a quick look at the table from Division 1B then. Sitting up at the top then is Old Wesley, closely followed by UCC, Highfield and Old Belvedere. Obviously, it is too soon to be calling any potential winners, but that is how we are looking after match day 1. And then moving on to Division 2A, and there were some huge results. MU Barnhall getting a bonus point victory, as did Blackrock College on their return to Division 2A. And what did you make of the whole set of fixtures?
Yeah, I think it's funny because Blackrock College only went up last year, like from 2B, but I wouldn't be surprised if they could go up again. Like I've said this, like I don't think there's a massive gap in between 2B and 2A. So it'll be really interesting to see what Blackrock College can do this year. Then obviously you've got somebody in Navan. Navan are probably where they should be now. They're back down to a level that's probably best suited to them. What can they do? Barn Hall did well. Then you've got Queens. Queens will want to go. They probably should have went up last year, taking nothing away from Bucks, but Queens were probably the most unlucky team in the whole country. Like I think it was the ball hit the post or something, and they didn't go up. So, but they'll be wanting to go up this year, and 2A is really interesting. All the divisions are really, but I think it could be really interesting there, and who knows what'll happen.
And it was interesting what you said about Queens there, and it must have been heartbreaking for them to lose out in a spot in 1B in that fashion, but they must have taken all that energy out on Dolphin, and they won 69-12, and it was a huge way and a great way for them to start the season. And it's just like you said, it's about them maybe finishing strong this time around. Yeah,
for sure. I think these things can have sometimes they can have a good effect, and sometimes they can have a bad effect if you think about it too much. But obviously, they've just decided they're going to get on with business, and they want to try and secure that promotion this year.
And another team in Division 2A, which had a great win to start things off, it was Nina Ormond. And last year, they were a side who really struggled, I think, with the intensity of the division. But starting their season off with a 25 win over UL Bohemian.
Yeah, that's good for them. The thing is with the AIL, just because you maybe weren't up to scratch last season, it doesn't mean you're not going to be this season. You have to wipe the slate clean and just go again. And who knows, we might get a few teams like that across all the divisions that maybe didn't perform last year, but will perform this year.
Yeah, definitely. And if we just take a quick look at Division 2A table after match day 1, it is Queen's University sitting at the top there, as they did for the majority of last season. Closely followed by MU, Barn Hall, Blackrock College, Nina Ormond and Navan, with Cashel just coming in there behind. So moving on then to Division 2B, and I think we said last week that it's probably the most competitive division of the 5, and that's kind of the way it looks from the start. We had Galway Corinthians narrowly beating Rainy Old Boys, Malahide a last-minute penalty beating Wanderers, who were one of the sides that you backed last year or last week, I should say, for maybe a spot in the top 4.
Yeah, I was really surprised by that result, to be fair, because I really do think Wanderers will get up this year. But the game I was really interested in, and I kept checking my phone to see what was going on there, was Greystones and Enniscorthy, because Greystones would be the obvious favourites, but I really think Enniscorthy have been a team on the rise, and I didn't put money on it, but I was kind of half thinking, could Enniscorthy pull off the upset? And they didn't in the end, but I think Enniscorthy could be a really interesting team to watch this year, and I was intently looking for a result in that one. So, 2B is always really exciting. You've got Belfast Harlequins as well, fantastic team. Neil Doak's coaching them this year, I believe, Nathan Doak's dad. So, who knows what they can do. Malahide look really good as well. To beat Wanderers in your first game will give you lots of confidence. And then Corinthians beating Rainy Old Boys, who've just come down from 2A. That'll do them a lot of good. I've heard positive things about Galwegians in their pre-season, but it didn't get planned for them at the weekend, I don't think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. But in general, 2B will be, it's probably the pick of the divisions, really, in terms of how close it's going to be.
Yeah, and like you said with Galwegians there was good things coming through from pre-season, but they did fall to a 33-7 defeat to Dungannon and face another tough task this weekend in a Galway derby against Galway Corinthians. And if we take a quick look at Division 2B table there, we'll see sitting top of the table is Dungannon, followed by Belfast Harlequins, Greystones, Galway Corinthians, and then obviously Malahide. And then a quick run through down to Division 2C. We had a huge game to start us off in match day 1, and it was between two of the perhaps favourites, Ballina and Skerries, with Skerries emerging 29-21 winners. There was also wins for Bangor, Bruff, Clonmel and New Boys. Instonians, how impressed were you with Instonians beating Tullamore in their first AIL game?
Yeah, I believe they scored they scored a bunch of tries within a couple of minutes or something, or a few minutes. And it's something I went back to last week. I think, especially in junior rugby in Leinster, Instonians came up from Ulster, but I don't think there's a massive gap, from Leinster League 1B or the Junior 1B to the likes of the AIL, and I think that proved it. Instonians could potentially go straight up to 2B. Like I don't think they're going to go down. I think they'll be real contenders to go up and win 2C. So it'll be really interesting. Like they beat a very good Bective team to get in to the AIL. So I think they deserve to be up there, and I think they could be a real surprise package this year. Like so.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you there. And if we just take a little look at Division 2B table after the first game, we'll see at the top is New Boys Instonians, followed by Clonmel, Bangor, Skerries, and then Bruff. And then a quick run through to the women's AIL. There was just the one game last weekend, and that was Setonians beating Cook 15-7. And then this weekend, we've got Ballincollig against Wicklow, Blackrock College against Galwegians, and then we have Old Belvedere against Cook. And obviously Setonians are playing Railway Union. That's the women's AIL. It's in full flow at the moment, Ciaron, and there's some terrific games that have gone on so far.
Yeah, Old Belvedere probably have been the best team in it. They've looked really, really good this year. Katie Whelan's playing scrum half for them from Enniscorthy. She's fantastic. She's been really, really good. Then they have Dana O'Brien at out half, who got capped for Ireland in the summer, or only last month. She looks really good as well. So Old Belvedere look like a serious team, and who knows, maybe they could win it this year. Ballincollig are struggling from the results I've seen so far this year. And Wicklow, it's funny with Wicklow, people might say I'm being a bit biased because it's technically my club, but I think, if you rewind 12 months and you see some of the results they got in those first 3 games against Blackrock, Old Belvedere and Railway, you think, oh, what are they doing here? But now you see they nearly beat UL Bows a couple of weeks ago. Like, they're a team really on the rise, and a lot of credit has to go to the coaches, not only the coaches, but everyone that's working hard in the club to make the team better. And I think that's a real sign. No matter what's happening now, you have to think of the bigger picture. And well done to everyone in Wicklow Rugby Club. I think they'll be confident they can get the win at the weekend with the way things are going for Ballincollig. Setonians got their first win of the season last week, and they'll be hoping to build on that. But Railway are the best in Ireland, so who knows? You'll probably go for Railway in that situation. But yeah, the women's division, it's a pity, like with Malone, that they're not in it anymore. But it's a really competitive league, and I enjoy it. So.
Absolutely. And Ciaron, thanks so much for joining us again this week. And our next guest, I'm sure, is going to have something to say about you saying that Old Belvedere are looking like the best team in the women's AIL.
Yeah. See you after.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Ciaron. And joining me now, of course, will be Railway Union and Leinster star Aimee Clarke. Aimee, welcome to the Rugby Show.
Wow, what's the story, Luke? How are you?
I'm very good. And obviously our AIL expert there did hint at Old Belvedere being the best side in the women's AIL, but I'm sure you won't agree with that.
I was hoping you couldn't hear me backstage. That's all I was hoping for.
Well, I couldn't, but I could only imagine. And obviously you're 2 games in, 2 wins so far to start the season. What have you made of it so far?
Really good. We're definitely building on from what we've made or did last year. But yourself, when you're coming back from such a high of the season we had last year, everybody's kicking themselves and all, which I don't think we should be doing, because we're a heck of a lot better at the start of this season than what we were last season. But what I think about this season is I don't think you can predict anything. Like, I remember after the first week, like, I seen some of them scores in some of the games, and I was like, a lot of them shocked me. So I think it's really, really good, and it's just showing the kind of push that everything that's happening and that all the clubs are pushing for, and it's great to see.
Absolutely. And we even see Galwegian pushing into one of them top 4 spots, which if someone said to you 12 months ago, you wouldn't have believed.
Oh, gee, I would have asked them what they were on. So never mind would I have believed them. Like, I actually think Wegians are sitting above us on the table. Now, I know some people have played an extra game, so we're a game behind, but I think they are above us on the table at the minute. Like.
Yeah, they are. And it was one thing which I wanted to speak to you about. Obviously, last year they introduced the top 4 and then the conference league. And we had Ella Roberts from Wicklow on last week, and she said sometimes playing in the conference, you're not improving at the same level you would be if you're playing against your likes of your Railways and your Belvederes and your Black Rocks. And I was just wondering what your opinion is on the split of the league after Christmas.
Yeah, I fully agree with it. I think it's no use playing against. I don't think anyone gets anything from a game where the score is 100 and odds to no score. I don't think anybody gets from that. Like, there's no build-ons from that. Whereas if you're playing against people who you're constantly competing against and constantly building against, you're only going to push yourself to get better, which is absolutely ideal. So I can see the positives and the negatives of both of it. But I think it's the way it should be done is the way it's currently being done, where everybody plays everybody and it's not split that top 4, bottom 6, because we're all in the same league together, you know?
Absolutely. And then taking you back to last year, obviously won the AIL after that fantastic win over Blackrock College in Donnybrook. And I just wonder if I can jot your memory back to that day and when you finally got it over the line. How were you feeling?
Just relief, to be honest with you. Like, I remember sitting on the edge of the seat and like heart in your throat, and you're just feeling that it's going and it's going, and you're looking at the clock and you're like, will there be extra time? And it's just, it's almost like it was like a ping pong game. You're looking at the clock, looking at the match, looking at the clock, looking at the ref. Like, it was unbelievable. But as soon as that whistle blown, like, just felt like we have 2 early morning gym sessions, 3 pitch sessions a week. Like, it just felt that everything we did was just all worth it. And like, that's a credit to the club and a credit to the coaching staff and a credit to the girls as well, you know. It just felt worth it, you know.
Absolutely. And then returning this year, then let's say for pre-season, whatever, is it difficult to come back as focused and as driven after winning it the year before, or is that hunger even stronger now for you to go back and do it again?
I definitely think there's a hunger, but I also think there's a pressure. Coming off such a successful season last year, there's definitely and that's, well, I'll go back to the start and saying that the girls are kind of kicking themselves. Like, there's definitely the pressure and the kind of the struggle to be like, why aren't we where we were at the end of last year? But I think a lot of people are forgetting that we're leaps and bounds ahead of where we were at the start of last year compared to this year, you know. But there's definitely a pressure. I don't know if anybody I train with would agree that I feel a bit of a pressure because I go around like a bit of a head case the whole time, you know. But yeah, that's the way it needs to be sometimes.
Yeah, and then in preparation for the season, with your pre-season and stuff, what does a Railway Union pre-season look like, and is it very demanding?
Yeah, but it's nothing nobody could handle, you know. Like, everybody's there from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different abilities, different everything, and we all get through it together because the one thing that shines out all the way through is that we're a team. Like, we played a pre-season game over in Chile and in Paris. We played Chile Marzon, and everybody came. So it wasn't just the playing 22, 23. Everyone came, and that's just, it's such an important thing for me because I'm coming from a sports with different backgrounds and stuff, and it was never kind of that way, and just it's family, you know, that way. So the pre-season, like, it's like you're getting to meet all your friends again. Like, I remember meeting one of the girls and I was like, geez, I feel like I have no friends because I'm not seeing them all. And as soon as pre-season kicked back in, it was just everybody just jolted back together, and it was brilliant, you know. So it's class, like.
That's unreal. And tell me a bit more about that trip to Paris. How long did you go for, and was it just the one challenge match you had over there?
Well, the first thing I'll say about it, everything that could have went wrong went wrong. Like, we went from the Friday to the Sunday. Friday sitting on the plane, ready, buzzing, everybody's going. It's been delayed for 2 hours, 3 hours. So we're sitting there at grand. We get off the flight in Paris, sitting there at grand. Where's the bus? But the manager comes over, oh yeah, the bus cancelled on us yesterday. We all had to get taxis back to where we were staying. Our head coach, John Cronin, ended up by the Eiffel Tower. We were half an hour away from the Eiffel Tower. God knows how he ended up there. He ended up with 3 of the girls. It's a place we went for food. I remember looking at some of the girls and I was like, you poor girl, like, you shouldn't have ordered that. The hotel we were staying in, I'm not even going to comment, just the hotel we stayed in. And then going to the match the next day, where we were supposed to have rooms for meetings and stuff. This didn't happen because we were so late getting there. Then going to the match, we were like, oh, it's only about a 5-minute drive, grand, about half an hour walk. So we were like, yeah, perfect. This half an hour walk was down the motorway. And I remember I'm a bit of a messer, I won't lie to you. So I was clipping the back of people's heels and kicking up under their feet and all. And one of the girls turned around to give me a slap, probably because I was messing. So I stepped away. Sure, the truck goes past me. One of the coaches pulled me straight back in. They're like, will you stop messing? I was like, oh, sorry. Like, so it was like, finally got to the pitch. All of us had done at least 12,000 steps before the match. I didn't play it. And then we get there and just like, it all just worked. Like we got there, we won, I think 28-14, maybe 28-5. Absolutely unbelievable game. The heat, geez, you could have cooked an egg on the wall. Like it was roasting, and like it was just there was nobody complained. Nobody gave out about anything. It was just we got there, we got a job done. We had a great game. Chile Marzon are in a professional French league. I think they're middle table, and we got there. We showed them what Irish rugby can do and what we can do, and we proved to ourselves what we can do. And then we had to be in the airport at 5 a.m. the next morning. So you can imagine what that was like after getting away in there. Like, but we all made the flight, which was even more so surprising. But it was absolutely brilliant. Like it was class.
Yeah, that sounds great, and I'm sure there's plenty of teams listening and saying, "Geez, we need to do a pre-season railway union style."
Absolutely, yeah.
And then obviously you did only start playing rugby like kind of late on in your career or whatever, and like I think did you start rugby back in 2017?
Started in 2017. Started just as I turned 18. So 5 years ago, 6 years this April, yeah. But yeah, I fell into rugby. Like I fell head first, not a clue what's going on. Like my first ever match, I was kicking a conversion and it bounced off the post, and sure, one of the girls ran out to grab it, and I should tackle her. And the ref was like, you can't do that." But I got really, really lucky. I got in before the cut off of ages. So after my first game, the manager of the opposite team was like, where have you been? And like, what's, and I was like, I'm only at the start. And they were like, there's Leinster trials this Wednesday. I want you there. So the only reason I started in Leinster was because the manager of the other team got there the Wednesday. I remember I had a pair of Dublin GAA shorts on, and someone tackled me and they got me by the shorts and they whipped me shorts down. Sure, I was still running. I was like, who's this hanging on to me? Got really lucky. Got selected with Leinster for sevens. Played 3 sevens tournaments with them. I got even more extremely lucky. Got selected with Ireland sevens under 18s. Played skill games, won gold medals. I mean, like you wouldn't believe it. Like if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe that it had happened. Then I was the first ever under 18 to go straight up into senior Leinster rugby. On my debut, I scored a hat trick against Ulster, and I ended up finishing that season top try scorer. Like it was like whirlwind is the only way I can explain it.
Absolutely, yeah, and it seems like such a crazy year that you had in full. And if you can talk to me a bit about how you fell into it. I know you were a Gaelic player beforehand. I've seen you play national rules and all. And what was it that really led to you making your first rugby game?
So I was a footballer. I played county for a while, and I used to dance as well. So I I split my time thousands of different ways. And when in my last year of minor, so it was just going 18, 17, so it was this December, we had trials, and long story short, I didn't get selected for the team. Heartbroken, absolutely devastated. But I was like, you know what? I've all this spare time now. Might as well do something else. And it was actually a girl from Suetonians text me on Facebook and was like, hey, we have a rugby team here. We'd really love if you join. So I was like, you know what? I'll try it. Like, got down there, did 3 or 4 training sessions, then went off and played a match, and the rest is what I just told you. Like, I'm always a big believer in like what's meant to be won't pass you by, and I don't think like I definitely like I've played in America and I remember Railway Union sent me to America to play rugby and all, like absolutely unbelievable, and that none of that would have happened if I was still playing Gaelic. Now I work for the GAA, so I'll never say anything bad about them, but it wouldn't have happened. Like,
yeah, definitely. And obviously you've had some incredible highs over your career so far, and if I was to ask you to maybe pinpoint your favorite sporting moment to date, what would it be?
Favorite sporting moment today, I'd have to say either the first try I scored for Ireland, I think that was incredible, or we came second in nationals in America. We lost out by a hair, but like it was just unbelievable. Like it was a different animal altogether. It was class. And then I'm gonna have to say winning the double last year was just like cherry on top. Like I could retire now and I'd be happy. I won't because I'm only 23, but I could and I'd be happy.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you did retire, you definitely have titles and achievements that people who've played for years would be jealous of. So I might move into a bit of a quick fire section just to finish this off.
Walk away, I'm ready.
Aimee, if I was to ask you the best passer of the ball that you've played with, who would you say it is?
Elsie Hughes.
The best tackler?
Siobhan McCarthy.
Kicker?
Christine Coffey.
Leader?
Niamh Bourne.
And then who's the joker of the squad? I get a bit of a vibe that some people might say you.
I'd say some people might say me, definitely. But I am only spurred on by the people around me, so I'll have to say like everybody's a bit of a messer when there's a certain person around. So I'm gonna go with the whole squad as a bit of a joker, like
Very
if I can
good.
do
And
that,
then
if
if I was
that's
to ask
allowed.
you, yeah, I'll take that. I won't
Okay.
argue with it. And then if I was to ask you maybe a rugby idol or a sporting idol when you were growing up, who would you say to me?
Oh, do you know I've actually been asked this before, and I'll have to say Lindsay P. So it's like it's absolutely class that I get to play with her now. But like that woman has gone and played every sport under the sun and played high at every sport as well. And do you know what? I think she's only become an idol since knowing her because she's just absolutely an incredible person and really helped me in in my journey in life and kind of when I was going through some bad stuff and all. Like she was like there and it really helped me. Like so, I'd absolutely say her.
Absolutely, and they've all been great answers. Aimee, thank you so much. I wish you all
Luke,
the best for the
absolute
rest
pleasure.
of the season, and it's been great to have you on.
Cheers, absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
Perfect, thank you. So now I will be joined by Sligo head coach Paddy Pearson. Paddy, welcome to the Rugby Show.
How's it going, Luke? You well?
I'm
Cheers.
very good. AIL, it's back in full flow. How glad are you that the season's back?
Pretty happy, eh? I guess it was a long off season for the lads because there was no sort of promotion playoffs or anything like that or relegation, thank God. So we kind of got back into it early enough. I felt like that had a good enough rest, and sort of we were straight on the pitch at the start of July, I think it was.
Yeah, and obviously one game in, one of the most difficult trips that you're probably going to have this season is an away game against Belfast Harlequins. It did end in defeat, but was there positives for you to take from the performance?
I guess there was. It's pretty disappointing to lose, to be honest. We certainly weren't clinical enough, probably too conservative as well. We didn't really go for the tries when we probably could have. We knew the weather turned. We were going to be into some nasty wind in the second half, and sure enough, that's what happened. So the body count got hit pretty hard as well. So we're sort of one of those things where away games can be tough and things can turn against you. So, but I think the defence, even down to 14 men in that period, even down the end when we're down bodies, like we didn't lead them across the try line even at the end, even though there was probably the game was out of our reach at that stage. They couldn't get past us, so that was very pleasing.
Absolutely, and then game against Malahide at home to start off your home campaign. Then they had a very good win against Wanderers, who would have been one of probably the early favourites to go up in the pre-season rankings and stuff. And I'm just wondering, do you prepare different kind of for, let's say, an away trip to Belfast Harlequins as you would to a home game against Malahide, or is it always kind of the same regime?
It's pretty much the same. I think there's probably not too much difference in them. It's the thing like Malahide, probably no one expected Malahide to beat Wanderers, but I think this league is going to be tit for tat. You're not going to get any unbeaten teams. It's going to be anyone can beat anyone. If you're not quite on your game, or you might take it lightly, or you're maybe missing a few players, you could get stung pretty hard. And I think that might be the perfect example of what happened last week. So we'll be expecting a tough game. They're a big pack, and we're going to have to be on our mettle. But as far as preparing goes, we pretty much structure it the same for away games and home games. Obviously, we had to do an overnight, but generally match days are pretty similar.
Yeah, and then like you said earlier on, your pre-season, like the lads had a very long off period. I was just wondering, what does a pre-season look like under Paddy Pearson as a head coach, and is there any crazy drills to get the lads in shape?
There's I pretty much handed over the reins to Ciaron O'Connor, our S&C fella, this year, and gave him a fair amount of rope to let loose, and there was a fair bit of chat. It was the hardest pre-season I've ever had, so hopefully that pays off for us. they are very fit. I guess we're in a unique situation where we have probably more than half our team don't live in Sligo. So we have to come up with different ways. We have training groups in Dublin. We have training groups in Galway. Lads are very committed. They travel back on Tuesdays when we need to train all together, and then we do Zooms and different things. So it takes a lot of commitment from the lads and a lot of thinking outside the box to try and get the work done.
Yeah, it really does, and obviously a pre-season like that is only going to help them in the long run. You were obviously the Sligo coach before, you weren't in charge last season. What made you want to come back and kind of pick up where you left?
I kind of probably always wanted to come back. I was sort of coaching for 5 or 6 years and sort of busy with work and stuff as well. And I just felt I didn't want to start not enjoying it. I get on really well with the lads, have a lot of time for them and my management team and stuff. And I just thought now's the time to sort of step back, which I tried to do the year previous before COVID. And the coach that they had fell through last minute. So it was too close to the season and I didn't want to sort of leave them in the lurch. So I said I'd stay on for that season, but then it got cut short anyway. So I had a good break now. I wasn't necessarily planning on coming back this year. I think the coach previous to me was going to stay on and then he got another job. So with a bit of agreement from my wife, I managed to slip back in there.
That's it. That's the agreement you need. And I was just wondering, as someone like you were so involved with Sligo for years and then to maybe take a step back last year, do you still always kind of watch in with an outside eye and check on the results and perhaps go to a couple of games?
Oh, absolutely. I go to every game I can just to support the lads, yeah. Mostly home games, but I got to a couple of away games as well. I tried to get on the Magic bus a couple of times with our famous supporters, but didn't quite eventuate. But yeah, no, I still would be in communication with a lot of them and support them as much as I could the last year. Yeah.
Yeah, and last year Sligo emerged as kind of really in the running for a top 4 place, pretty much up until Christmas, until the first half of the season, and then we saw a slight maybe downward spiral towards the second half of the campaign. And just wondering, as maybe someone close to the club, do you know why that was happening? Was it, like you said, the travel, or just kind of the effects of a long season?
I think it was a bit of everything. The games I saw, I think they left too many points behind them at the first half of the season. Like, it's very tight, and if you're dominating games, you need to be picking up bonus points, especially at home. So they picked up 4 or 5 bonus points throughout the season. They probably could have got, they would have found themselves in the top 4, even maybe dropping off a bit of form and different things. They probably would have still been in there. So that's how tight the AIL is, and especially in this league. There'll be no different this year, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and what would make this year a successful season for yourself and for Sligo? And have you set maybe goals to meet for the lads, and maybe set promotion as the target?
Yeah, so we set goals at the start of the year. We get the lads to set the rugby goals and set their own goals outside of rugby as well, which was really important for us with the college and work and just home life and stuff. First goal was to win the senior league. Turned into a bit of a mess. We had 1 game less. Corinthians pulled out on us in the first game, and then in Connacht we only have 4 games, and you want to kind of get them all in so you can build some structure in your team. And then a few injuries, and we end up missing out on points difference to Buccaneers. They scored in the last play of the game, so disappointing. We didn't tip that off, and we missed out on Bateman Cup then. But top 4 is probably where we need to be, and I think it's where we should be with the squad we have. You can't always count for injuries, and certain positions are harder to fill than others. But rough start for us, but I think we'll be fine. We have enough good players and enough depth, and we sort of trust everyone that comes in. Development team players or whoever they are, squad players, we always trust them to come and do a job when they put the jersey on.
Yeah, and like you kind of said there about with the injuries, especially last week, and what is the squad depth like around the squad, and what players are you expecting to be missing for this weekend?
We took sort of 4 or 5 really bad injuries in the weekend. Couple of them look like they might be coming through. Jack Keegan's, he's definitely out. He's got broken ribs. So that'll force a change there. We're still waiting on sort of late fitness physio things to come through this week, so we probably won't know until maybe Thursday evening. But I expect we'll be missing 2 or 3 lads, key lads, coming into Saturday. But we'll just back whoever jumps in there, and we'll just get on with it. It's going to be like that all year, so there's no point in sort of dwelling on it. You just got to look forward.
Absolutely, and it's a very long season, and I suppose a lot of teams are going to have them issues throughout the season. I'm just wondering, when it comes to maybe players in reserve that are coming in, do you fully back them to be able to perform as good as like some of the players that you mentioned there?
Yeah, absolutely. We all train together on a Tuesday. So we had a really good session last night as well, and I'm seeing a great progress in the young lads coming in, and that's what you need, because even with the lads, if I don't get them to travel back, you rely on them lads to get a quality session in. So the best part of that is they can step straight into your structures then if they're called upon, and we've already seen it in the senior league. We're missing a number of lads, and they just jump in and get on with it. So it's great. It's great for the Sligo as a whole, and try and get the development team back going well as well.
And I'm just wondering what the backing is like for the AIL side. And you've had a few great women in charge of the club over the last couple of years, obviously the current and then the former president of both the women in the club. And I'm just wondering, what are they like to deal with, and how good of a kind of a family setting is it around Sligo?
It's a massive family setting. Obviously, you mentioned Claire Story there, who was one of the first women presidents. She's a legend of a woman. Now we have Jean McConnell as president as well. So even actually just the women in general, the women's teams are really strong now in Sligo, and there's a lot of push behind it, and it's the best thing for a club. And even from New Zealand, when the women's teams are strong in a club, the club's always strong. So that's important for us. In Sligo, you're sort of out on your own, and I'd say it'd be fair to say we probably have the best supporters in the country, and they follow us around on the Magic Bus every weekend. Obviously, it hurts when you don't get the win for them. They travel up to Belfast. I know they had a great day out. Claire was actually struggling to get them back on the bus to leave. I think the bus driver pacing up and down the car park a few times. But like, they're massive and they mean a lot to our team, and that sort of runs through the club. So they're huge for us, and hopefully we get them some good wins this year.
I'm sure you will. And you're originally from New Zealand, and I think the obvious question to ask is, how did you end up in Sligo?
So I ended up in Sligo. I sort of had the opportunity. I was playing in Canterbury there, and had the opportunity to maybe come overseas for an off season, just train and play and work, and just mainly sort of concentrate on rugby in between the seasons. And a friend of mine, Jamie Livingston, was he actually played a couple of years in Sligo, and he said, "Oh, would you come over to Sligo and play?" And next thing you know, I land in Sligo, and it was a bit of an eye opener, to be honest with you. But straight away fitted in. It was good crack.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, you've obviously had a long career as a player and a coach so far, and I'm just wondering if you could maybe pick out one moment that stands out to you as perhaps your favourite sporting moment.
Probably in New Zealand, I was actually lucky enough to win some Div 1 titles and stuff, but probably over here, sort of when we set out, Sligo was a junior club, and they sort of had a 5-year plan to get into the AIL, and I think we managed to do it in 2 years. 2010-11, we sort of knuckled down and decided we can have a real good crack at this. We had a good team, all local lads, some really good players, and went on and won the league and cup double in Connacht and got promoted to the AIL. That was sort of, even the nights and days afterwards celebrating, you still would talk about them every now and then. They prop up. We're just actually having a laugh about them the other day. Some of the moments you'll never forget, and even the players that would have played in that time, they'll never forget that as long as they live. And hopefully the lads coming through, you try and tell them sort of cup wins and stuff like that, it's a memory you'll have forever, and it's quite special.
Absolutely, and hopefully for Sligo's sake that you'll be able to recreate some of their memories maybe at the end of the season. And then just to finish this, Paddy, with a potential quick fire round of questions. I might ask you some players that you've played with and what their best attributes were. So if you just can give me the first player that comes to your head.
The best player or just attributes?
So maybe the best all-round player that you played with, someone who could do it all: kick, tackle, pass.
Andrew Murdens would have to be probably the best player I've played with in Christchurch, the All Black first five. He's a special fella, bit of a piss taker, but the skill set he has was probably second to none from what I'd ever experienced growing up. Luckily, I'm getting pretty old, so All Blacks and Super Rugby players played club rugby and rep rugby and stuff back then. So you come across them every week, but he was a different breed.
The best tackler that you ever played with?
Ooh. Oh, that'd have to be Ben Herring. Geez, I don't know if any of your listeners would know these fellas now, but he actually played Leicester Tigers as well. Played for the Highlanders and the Hurricanes back in New Zealand.
Very good. Maybe best kicker that you played with?
Oh, that's Mertz, 100%, yeah. Daniel Carter's not too bad, but Mertz, yeah.
Best passer?
Byron Callagher, probably one of the best passers to come across, yeah.
Maybe a rugby idol for you growing up, or kind of when you were aspiring to start playing rugby?
Yeah, I think probably there's a few legends back in Otago when I was growing up in Otago, but one fella I sort of come across when I was a bit older was Reuben Thorne, and I know he was All Black captain, but he would come back and play club rugby, just real down to earth, real good fella, real good leader. If Div 1 weren't playing that week, he'd go and play for Div 2, stuff like that. He was just a real grounded lad, and on top of that, he'd give you his credit card to go on the piss with after games. So,
well, that's always a bonus. And I might just ask you one, just kind of Sligo orientated, from your playing and even maybe your coaching days. Who's the biggest mess or joker that you came across in the squad?
Oh, geez, there's a long list. There's a few characters. We have a few country boys like the Gormleys. They're good characters. They're into their bees and different things. Michael McMurrow, Chewy, all-Ireland chess champion. He's a bit of a character, and he's still floating around, running the show up in Sligo with the crack.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. And Paddy, I wish you nothing but best of luck for the rest of the season. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it. Good man.
I'm afraid that is all that we have time for here on the Rugby Show tonight, but we'll be back next weekend. Thank you so much for your time, and see you again.